Ahead this morning, classroom controversy. Parents riled up in one state after teachers were given controversial lesson plans for elementary school children. Parents sounding the alarm in Massachusetts after a school district gave educators puberty lessons to teach 4th and 5th graders that gender is a, quote, spectrum, and that students can choose whether they want to be a boy or a girl based on, quote, their head and their heart. Joining us now to discuss this is Parents Defending Education's Director of Outreach, Erika Sanzi. Good morning to you, Erika. Great to see you. This is happening in the Arlington Public School District in Massachusetts. Parents, they're riled up. This is how you guys found out about this story. We're talking about 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. Tell us more about these lesson plans. What did you make of this?
Well, first of all, I just want to say this is malpractice, but unfortunately it's prevalent nationwide because the national standards changed in 2020 and a lot of school districts are catching up to that, which is why we see this craziness appearing across the country. But in Arlington, Mass, as in many other districts, this lesson teaches that everyone chooses their gender. And the exact words used in the lesson are that every individual decides how they identify based on what's in their head and heart, as you said. So, I mean, the parents, and I agree, see this message as very destabilizing for children. It is obviously very confusing. We all know that most of us do not choose our gender. So the first problem here is that it's inaccurate, but also it really does seem like a deliberate effort to confuse other people's young children in the service of an ideology. And it sounds like pseudoscience. It's
not just ideology, as you just said. There are actual points for teachers to make that those in the science and biology community dispute.
Correct.
What are some of those examples?
Well, for one, you know, evolutionary biologists know that sex is binary, so that you're either male or you're female. And in this class and in the lesson, they speak about the words male and female as if they're bad words, meaning the teacher promises not to use them in the class. And instead, because again, people have lost their minds, they say that they're going to refer to boys as people with a penis and girls as people with a vagina. And now the words male and female, which are clearly accurate and also much more economical ways of speaking, are off the table.
Yeah, and there's also this gender unicorn that's being used as an illustration that many would say is based on superficial, regressive stereotypes and completely ridiculous regardless of where you stand on this issue. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so the gender unicorn is a graphic that was created by a trans activist group, and it has sort of just multiplied in ways where we see it in almost every school that teaches about this, although I will say that now the gender snow person and the gender bred man or gender bred person are catching up on its heels. Now, the gender unicorn is, I don't know if you have it on your screen right now, but it's this idea, again, that your sex was assigned at birth. So it's not that the doctor and the parents, you know, observed what the baby was and we all said it's a girl, it's a boy, but that somebody made a decision to assign that to you and that person, you know, very likely could have made a mistake. But the other thing when I look at this, again, putting aside the regressive stereotypes about how apparently now your hobbies and your hair length determine whether you're a boy or a girl, but they have gender identity and gender expression as two different things, then they have your sex as a different thing, and then they have to be who you're physically attracted to versus who you're emotionally attracted to, which again, like, adults don't really even understand what this dumb thing is saying, and yet they give it to young children because they know that it confuses them and it destabilizes their notion of girls and boys and men and women.
It's very confusing. And what's important to note, though, is that this is not just happening, as you mentioned, in Massachusetts. You've seen this across the country. A lot of parents might not even know about this. Can parents opt their child out of these plans? And what would you recommend for any parent who sees this at their child's public school and is not on board?
So they should be able to opt out, but the problem is sometimes it's very limited to just the sexual reproduction or sex education piece. So first they need to find out if they can opt out. One thing that's important is that school districts often make it really hard to opt out. So number one, they don't tell you that you can. Number two, they don't notify you of about this the lesson or when they're coming. They make it so you have to go into some special link in order to opt out, and they also make you do it every year. So if if you remembered last year to opt your kid out, but then next year you forget, then they're going to be in all of this. So I would say that parents should really find out exactly. And to this district's credit, they did host a parent forum, and they explained what they would be teaching, and really all of the crazy stuff and the ideological stuff that you and I are discussing, it was in that presentation. So at least they were sort of transparent about how nuts it was going to be. But certainly parents should reach out and find out, how do I opt out from this? What parts can I opt out? And if they're not allowed to opt out of the gender stuff, it does make sense for parents to come together and try to figure out a way to get that changed.
And that would only work if parents were also very engaged and were aware
this is the
of what's
thing.
happening in their kids' school.
Yes. And I speak to, parents all the time at my kids' activities and games, et cetera. And we're still at a place where a lot of parents, if you explain to them, like if I were to read the slides from these lessons verbatim to parents, a lot of them would think I'm exaggerating. They would think this can't possibly be true. So first, it's breaking through that awareness and getting people to understand that it is true, and that the reason, and because it's a change. So you can't think back to what it was like when you were in school and assume it's like that. These standards went through a massive overhaul, I think, in 2020.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing in schools now is very different, what they maybe even saw with older siblings.
Parents Defending Education's Erika Sanzi, always great seeing you. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.
You too, Jan.
Thank you.
Take care.